Hello there, welcome to Speaking of Business. I'm your host, Nancy Boyle. Today we've got a couple of events coming up that you as business owners or prospective business owners are definitely going to want to find out about. Joining me on the first half of our show are Maurice Hay with the Small Business Development Center and Raymond Joseph with Joseph and Maurice Law Firm. So welcome.
Thank you.
Maurice, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at the SBDC?
I am the Northeast Florida Regional Coordinator for the SBRN, SBDC, and that covers 18 counties.
Okay, and we've used some acronyms there. So what's SBDC, SBRN?
The Small Business Resource Network, it's a program of the Small Business Development Center at the University of North Florida, and it's a network of business professionals that assist small businesses, small business owners. The network is made up of accountants, attorneys, business attorneys, commercial lenders, bankers, business consultants, and nonprofit organizations.
Okay, great. Switch over to you, Raymond. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm an attorney here in Jacksonville. Our firm is Joseph and Maurice. We do commercial litigation and primarily focus in the area of commercial collection. So we're helping small to large size businesses with their receivables and contract disputes and recovering obligations that are owed to them, and we start from pre-suit consultation all the way through collecting a judgment.
Okay. Maurice, I want to come back to you because the reason that we're here today is because the Small Business Development Center and the Small Business Resource Network are sponsoring an event coming up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll find out some of the meat of the event from Raymond.
It's the Entrepreneurship's Law School, and what SBRN has done has put together, they've assembled in one place all the legal advisors and experts in corporate law that a small business owner would need in order to reduce their risk and succeed.
Okay, so who, what, where, when, why? Where is it? How much does it cost? Who's sponsoring it? Let's go ahead and get those details out.
Okay, well, the one good reason to attend is not only are all these legal experts all in one place to answer your questions, it also is less than the cost of just one of these professionals' time in 1 hour. The cost is $75 per person. It's going to be at the UNF University Center, and the date is Thursday, October 22nd. It's from 7:45 to 12:30 p.m. and you have an opportunity when you attend to sit through breakout sessions, and also we'll have a speaker, Raymond Joseph, who will have a session in the morning.
Okay. So who should people call if they're interested?
You need to call 904-620-2476. That's the main number at the SBDC, or you can visit us online at www.sbrn.org, and that's for SBRN, for Small Business Resource Network.
Okay, now Raymond, I want to get back over to you as the legal person who's presenting a workshop at this event. I know in our experience at the Small Business Development Center, you know, we're there to help people with problems, et cetera, but why is it really important for a business owner to establish a relationship with an attorney before they get into trouble?
Well, it's always good to get some legal help before you have a problem. Unfortunately, most people wait until they have the problem to call an attorney, but I really think it's like anything else. Having the preventative side is going to save you a whole lot more expense when you have the problem than if you go ahead and wait until you have the problem and call someone. So what I recommend people to do is to make a relationship with an attorney, establish that relationship if you've got a small business. And what SBRN does that's so wonderful is you have a network of professionals, and when someone comes to us, we usually will counsel them to make sure they've got a legal professional, an accounting professional, a real estate professional, and someone today that wants to be successful in business needs to have those resources, and so having an attorney is part of that puzzle. And there's going to be issues that come up down the road for the small business or large business owner. Having an attorney in place, having reviewed those documents before you have a problem is going to be essential. So it's something that really people think maybe they can't afford, but reality is they can't afford not to have that if they're going to be in business today.
Well, it's kind of pay me now or pay me later.
Right.
You know, you might pay me now a little bit, but if we go to litigation or if there's a big, huge problem, then it's going to be a much higher expense.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yeah. Well, You know, most people that end up coming to an attorney have a problem because usually there's a dispute with two parties over some understanding of the agreement. And whether it's, as we've all experienced, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in business, any kind of relationship, communication tends to be where the problem occurs. And for most business people, they'll have a relationship with a customer that starts out in what I call the honeymoon phase, where you get the new customer, everybody's happy, you know, you can do no wrong, and they're happy, they're paying you their bills, and suddenly a problem comes up. And then the question becomes is, well, did we have a contract? What were the terms of that contract? What are my obligations under the contract? What is the customer or client's obligations? And if you don't have that spelled out on the front end and you don't have an attorney help you with that, you can get into trouble. A lot of people will try to do it themselves. As I was mentioning before we started the show, I got my hair cut today. I hope it looks good. But
It looks great.
I don't have a lot to cut, but I end up going to somebody and paying them to do it because they're going to do a better job more efficiently than I'm going to do it. And believe it or not, we have clients that will come to us that try to draft their own legal documents. And I ask them, why are they doing that? And they're trying to save money.
Sure.
But the problem is when you have a legal problem, it's too late once you've already entered into that contract to have an attorney come in and try to fix it. Now all I can do is try to mitigate the damage that you might suffer. And like you said, it's not only pay me later, it's pay the other guy later, because now you're going to have to pay an attorney to get involved. But you're also going to perhaps have to pay damages to the other party, legal fees to the other attorney. So it's really a preventative maintenance is a much cheaper way to go. And I think people need to realize they can hire attorneys a lot less expensive than they might think. Most people are afraid when you mention an attorney or an accountant or a consultant. These are very reasonable professionals. For example, some of the stuff we do it on a contingency fee basis for a collection. So there's no fee unless we make a recovery. So you need to, I think the seminar Maurice is talking about, the reason it's so exciting is it's a chance for a business person to come and be in one environment and meet several professionals with a spectrum of specialties and get a chance to see where they might need to plug some risk holes that they have in their operation.
Well, and I think too, the fear comes in where, because attorneys charge by the hour typically, I think the fear on the part of the business owner is if I pick up the phone and call just to inquire, that the clock's going to start right then and there, which is not true.
Right.
I mean, most attorneys are going to find out if, first of all, what's your problem, and am I the right person for you?
Right.
Because there's a vast amount of law, and you can't know it all. So, you know, I think there's sort of that initial kind of feeling each other out to determine if, yes, this is the right situation, let's move forward. And I think most people, at least members of the SBRN, are pretty upfront with, okay, here's what I can do for you, and then give you a sense of where the fees might range.
Sure, and I mean, that's what we do in our practice. If someone calls in, typically I'm going to speak to them on the phone for free. I'm not going to give them a consultation over the phone, but I'm going to find out what their problem is. Is it something that I can help them with? If so, what's it going to cost them to come in to actually get that problem looked at? And in many cases, we're going to refer them to maybe a more appropriate professional, someone in a different subspecialty or someone in a different area, and maybe they really have an accounting issue or maybe they have a tax issue. And so I think, again, finding out is the key. Getting good advice, whether it's legal or accounting or insurance, and we've got some wonderful professionals at the SBRN that provide all of those services, and you guys do a great job. So
thank you. Now, what are some of the, at least in this climate, what are some of the challenges that you see business owners having?
Well, as you know, the topic of my address at the seminar is going to be the checks in the mail, and that's what I've been doing the last 27 years is doing commercial collections. Unfortunately, as we all know, the economy has really had some problems over the last couple of years, and businesses, I don't know any business that's not having cash flow problems now. So if you are a small business, don't be afraid to say, yes, we're having cash flow problems and we need to address it. You know, putting your head in the sand is not going to help. Listening to somebody tell you they'll pay you is good as far as it goes, but there are steps that you can take. And so in this environment right now, I think businesses are scared. They're worried about the economy. And in my opinion, I think we might, and I hope we've seen bottom, but it's a slow recovery. It's not a quick one. And what business owners need to do is make sure they're taking all the steps they can to improve their bottom line, weather the storm, cut expenses where they can without cutting too deep to the bone, and make sure that if there's someone out there that owes them money, they can work out an amicable solution. You don't necessarily have to file a suit. If you do, we can help you as well, but we can also help you avoid the suit and maybe come up with a liquidation schedule where someone can pay you back and provide you some sort of security to do that. So in this economy, what we're seeing mostly is that businesses have been adjusting to the tightening of the economic downturn and are working on making sure they're getting as much dollars as they can in, and everybody's having to borrow from someone else to pay another vendor. So
well, I think it kind of goes back to, if you set it up right in the beginning, you kind of minimize the opportunity for people to not pay you. Am I correct?
Right. Well, and that's a good point, and that's the credit app that we offer a consultation with clients about, and if they become a client, we actually provide a free credit application. A lot of businesses, like I said, you start out in the honeymoon phase, and you've got a relationship. And in the old days, in our parents' and grandparents' generation, a handshake was how people did business, and that's a wonderful thing. But we're now in the internet world, and people are doing business instantaneously. They're dealing with companies that they don't know how long they've been in business, who are the officers of the company. So getting a good credit application, for example, for a small business, if you're going to extend credit, and most businesses have to extend credit because most people cannot pay cash. So if you're going to extend credit, having that credit app that covers the who, what, when, and where, like you were saying before, in terms of who is actually the liable party. Most people don't really know who owns the company. You're doing business with, J&R Construction, and I hope there's not a J&R Construction out there, but maybe there's a James, and we don't know, is there a Raymond or is there a Ronnie? Yeah. Who are we really dealing with? Is it a partnership? Is it a corporation? And with the resources now on the internet, like sunbiz.org, you can go check out a corporation. You can see whether or not they're incorporated. Are they a dissolved corporation? Do you have a personal guarantee? There's a whole bunch of things that a smart business owner can do on the front end to make sure that if the account goes bad, they have done what they can to protect themselves, and hopefully if they have to hire me or someone like me, they can recover their attorney's fees, interest, and court costs. And if you don't have that in that document on the front end, unfortunately the law says that without an agreement to provide for attorney's fees, you're responsible for your own fees. So you pay for it 10 times over by having it done right the first time.
Again, preventive maintenance.
Right.
Maurice, let me come back to you, and very quickly, what are some of the other topics that people could expect to learn about?
Well, that's just a taste of what's going to be, so that's great. Thanks, Raymond. We're having what I think it's Sue or Not to Sue, Bankruptcy 101, and competes, employer issues, employment issues, and contracts, how to negotiate contracts. Okay,
so a wide variety of corporate law. So you in the audience, if you come to this event, you can get multiple information from multiple attorneys, and again, it's October 22nd.
Yes.
Correct? And call 620-2476.
Correct.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here. You in the audience, remember, if you've got some legal issues, deal with them before they become problems. So don't go away. We'll be right back. If you'd like more information about today's show, please write to Speaking of Business, care of SBDC, 12,000 Alumni Drive, Jacksonville, Florida, 32224, or visit our website at www.sbdc.unf.edu. Welcome back to Speaking of Business. Again, I'm your host, Nancy Boyle. So for those of you that are currently in business, the first half of the show we talked about our legal workshop coming up. And now for those of you that are interested in starting a business, not sure what to do, we're going to be talking about some franchising events that are coming up. Joining me on this half of the show are Stephanie Royal and Kevin Monahan, who are both with the Small Business Development Center. Stephanie, ladies first, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at the SBDC?
Well, at the SBDC, we work with people who are starting a business or own a business. We provide free counseling or low-cost training, so I take care of the training and a lot of the special events.
Okay, Kevin?
Well, I'm Special Projects Director at the Small Business Development Center, which means I get all the interesting things that don't normally fit into the day-to-day activities of our office.
Okay, and franchising, I guess, is one of those activities,
That would
correct?
be a fit, that's correct.
So, and Stephanie, you've got how many events coming up this month?
We actually have two. We have one in October and one in November, so we're pretty excited to have these things coming up. So the first one's October 6th, and that'll be a little bit more of an intimate gathering, pretty small group. But as we were saying, it's a good starter for the event in November. And the one in October 6th, will be kind of a home in our office, and we have some local people. But on November 6th, we have a pretty large event coming up where we'll have potential franchisors will be there in a trade show with some breakout opportunities for more training, and it should be a really good event for networking and learning more about franchising.
So if somebody is going, I want to find out more about this, what do they do?
They really just need to call the Small Business Development Center, and that'd be at 620-2476. And of course, they can always go to our website at www.sbdc.unf.edu.
Okay, Kevin, since you're the guy that counsels clients, let's talk about franchising, because, you know, if somebody wants to get into business, you know, they can start from scratch with
Right.
whatever their great idea is, or they can get into a franchise.
Well, there's really three ways.
Okay.
They can start it from scratch, which is difficult but theoretically economical. The second option, of course, would be to buy an existing
Okay,
business
sure.
where they'd really have to do some due diligence so they're not buying something that they're unhappy with later on. And the third would be to have a turnkey model, something that has already been thought through, the processes are supposedly all worked out and everything else, and that would be the franchise model where you buy into that and the franchisor provides everything to get you up and running.
Okay, so let's say I decide I want to be in business for myself, and I'm a little fearful of starting from scratch, and I don't necessarily want to just buy somebody else's good, bad, or indifferent. So I'm looking at franchising. What are some of the key elements that I might be looking for?
Well, I think it's really important to think about who you are, what your temperament is, what your
Okay.
lifestyle is, and you know, are you an entrepreneur? Are you somebody that doesn't like to be told what to do? Are you always trying to do something a little different? Are you trying to add banana to the peanut butter in a sandwich or something like that? If that's the case, then maybe a franchise isn't right for you, because the franchisor is rather stringent about how you run your business, and the behavioral patterns, as I said, the procedural patterns of how the business is going to run. If you run a McDonald's, for example, you're not going to be selling hot dogs anytime soon. But if you wanted to, McDonald's would be very unhappy about that and would want to talk to you about it. So that's something you have to think about. If you want to do your own thing, then you've got to go the other way. In order to explore franchising, there's a number of different ways to do that. One would be, of course, people go to entrepreneur.com, the magazine website, and there's always a number of articles about franchising and a list of people in the back who are offering their franchises. There are also a number of highly qualified businesses like FranNet, for example, that will take you through that personality test phase and you know, talk through you. What are you looking for? What do you want to be when you grow up and you go into business? And they will take the 130 odd franchises that they have vetted as being a quality franchise and present you with 2 or 3 that they think will really be a proper fit for you.
Well, and that raises a good question, because how do you know, other than the name brand, I mean, other than McDonald's or Burger King, you know, that are probably very expensive franchises, you know, if something's a little bit new and a little bit different, how do you know that it's a legitimate business, or that it's going to be a successful business, or that it's got a track record that the likelihood of your success is greater than, you know, so how do you do that?
Well, the whole area of franchising has had its ups and downs in years past, and it's a highly regulated kind of a thing now. So the federal government requires the franchisor to put out a statement that's uniform in content. In other words, every page is more or less the same, but the content's different. And it tells you everything you need to know about this franchise, what their experience has been, who likes them, who doesn't like them, testimonials one way or the other from the franchisees, and even a way to contact any of the franchisees you want, not just the model ones that the franchisor is putting before you as being in love with the franchise. So there's a number of ways to check that. And of course, the Better Business Bureau and other ways to check those. So the machinery's out there to do that.
Okay, so there are independent entities or resources that you can go to find out whether or not that this is, because you hear some horror stories occasionally of a franchisee who gets so locked in and they're stuck paying royalties and they can't get out of it, and then all of a sudden the parent company goes belly up and you're kind of stuck.
I think what happens is it is a commitment. I think that people going in need to realize what an important decision it is on both ends, both in terms of the franchisor giving this individual a franchise and the individual themselves, and what are their long-term goals for the relationship with this, and where do they think the franchisor is going to go. Keeping that in mind, I think it's really important that there be, and there is now, what was a 3-page agreement for a franchise is now up to 50.
Yeah.
And everything's pretty well laid out. But again, after you do the research and everything, one of the issues is, and one of the things that we find in counseling at the Small Business Development Center is, sometimes people just fall in love with the idea. They've had certain consumer experiences with that particular chain or whatever, and they really, really, really want to do it.
They love McDonald's hamburgers.
And some of the warning signs are there, and we try to help them to see those. Not only the advantages, but perhaps the personal disadvantages with that as well. So we take them through the whole process and get them with the right people so they can make the right decisions.
Now, what about financing? Is it easier to get financing for a startup business? I'm going to buy this business, or a franchise?
Well, the general answer is right now it's hard to get financing.
Yeah, well, that's
but if we were to look at it specifically, banks historically have felt that a franchise model has been more fundable because the structure is there. It's not somebody who's written their idea on the back of a cocktail napkin, brought it into the bank and said, fund me, I've got this great idea. If you go to one of the more widely accessible and successful franchises, they lay everything out for you. You've got binders and binders of what to do when, and what structure you should have, and who you should hire, and what their aptitude should be, and where to place it, what locations are best, and everything else. So the bank's willing to take more of a chance with that kind of a setup because they feel that the blueprint is already in place.
Well, and I suppose if the franchise company has 25 locations and all 25 of them are profitable, it's reasonable to assume that this location will be profitable too.
Yes, yes.
And I would think certainly the franchisor is going to do their own screening of that potential franchisee to make sure it's a good fit.
It is generally in the best interest of the franchisor to make sure they've got somebody coming on board that is going to be with them and is going to play by the rules and is going to succeed. And so now we're looking at what are their aptitudes? What have they done before they have decided to open a franchise? Have they worked for a corporation? Have they worked for a company that did a similar thing? Do they have management experience? Are they capable of keeping the books? Do they have good habits in terms of following policy and procedure? Those are all things that come into play when we work with somebody who might consider a franchise.
Okay. Stephanie, I want to go back to you and let's talk a little bit about these two events. One is October the 6th, one is November the 6th?
Yes, interestingly enough.
Interestingly enough. And where will they be held? And give us a little more information if you could, please.
Well, it's actually kind of easy. They're both on the 6th of the month. They're both $20, so you could go to $20 for one, $20 for the other, and they're both at the UNF University Center. So just remember those things. Now, the November event is in the morning, so it will be starting around 9 o'clock and going till around 3 o'clock. So that's a kind of a full day event. But our October 6th event, that will be from 6 until 8 o'clock.
Okay. And I believe, Kevin, you're participating in these events.
Yes.
So could you maybe share with our audience a little bit of some of the things that they'll be able to pick up if they attend these events?
They're both a little bit different.
Okay.
The first one is really going to be hands-on exploration of the franchise concept. In other words, again, exploring, do you have what it takes? Here's what's really going on, kind of the real facts behind this,
Okay.
And I guess
scoop, as you say.
Yes, we kind of dispel some of the myths of franchising, if it were,
Okay.
and talk about, what it really takes and the rewards for doing that. The second one is going to be a little bit like that, but probably more of an exhibit trade show format where people can see franchises that perhaps they haven't seen before. I mean, everybody
Okay.
thinks of McDonald's and Burger King,
Sure.
and it's usually a food concept, but the reality is there's so many different kinds out there. doing all different things, and some of them are quite affordable. It's not automatically, you know, $1 million business. You can get in for several $1,000s and do something that's service related, for example, and you can even work out of your home.
Well, it sounds to me like if you really seriously are thinking about buying a franchise, you'd want to go to October 6th and kind of get the scoop and make notes as to what to look for, and then come back again on the 6th and get some more information, but also see kind of a dabbling or a sampling, if you will, of a variety of different potential
I think you're right,
franchises.
Nancy. Really, to get the most out of it, folks who are even vaguely considering or dreaming of what that would be like ought to go to both.
Well, and certainly affordable.
Absolutely.
You know, $20 each. I mean, you can't really beat that. And you'll be able to walk away with takeaway information, I'm sure. Is that correct?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Quite a bit?
Quite a bit. So the International Franchise Association is sponsoring the November event, and they bring just all kinds of things. And of course, the people who are setting up the trade show booths, you know, they have lots of information as well. So.
Well, and it sounds like the more information you can gather, the better decision that you'll be able to make.
Actually, sometimes it can be a little confusing. You've got so much information.
Well, there is that.
But that's when you really want to come in to see us at the Small Business Development Center. That's a good time to come in and let us help you sort through this. I mean, again, going back to business plan basics and what it takes to start a business. I mean, the rules are all the same there, whether you're starting a business on your own or doing it as a franchise. We can help you do that. So.
Okay, great. I want to thank you both for being here. You in the audience,
Thank you.
remember 620-2476, www.sbdc.unf.edu, and you can find out about both events. So thanks for joining us today, and come back next time when we'll be speaking of business. Bye now.